Could my surprisingly rapid Clubsport S have actually been remapped? Well, there's only one way to find out. Hello and welcome back to the Volks Wizard channel, and welcome to the first episode in a new video series entitled Road to the Ring, in which I cover the preparation of both the car and the driver in advance of taking my Mk7 Golf Gti Clubsport S back to its spiritual home, the Nürburgring's Nordschleife. My preparation begins in about 3 weeks when I've got my first ever Clubsport S track time booked at the super wide expanse of Bedford Autodrome, where I can get to know its ways in a really safe environment before travelling out to the Green Hell about a month later. There's still a lot of work to do to the car though. Firstly, I need to get some spare wheels because I need some to fit the Goodyear Eagle F1 Supersport R semi-slick track day tyres too. And following the publication of the Racingline R600 intake video, a lot of you guys suggested I needed now to upgrade the turbo inlet pipe, or elbow, whatever you want to call it. I'm getting the wheels and the inlet pipe from Racingline. I'm actually on my way there now. Yes, I could have had them shipped to me, but the guys there said, why don't you bring your Clubsport S down? We can stick it on our dyno and see whether it's been remapped, and either way, see how much power it's producing. Could my surprisingly rapid Clubsport S have actually been remapped? Well, there's only one way to find out. I've got to say, guys, I've never been so excited before about the prospect of going to lovely Milton Keynes. Okay guys, we're in the dyno cell here at Racingline, and I've got the latest addition to the Racingline team here with me, Paul. So tell us what you do here at Racingline.
So I'm the Technical Sales and Support Manager for Racingline, quite new to the company, started earlier this year. Ultimately I'm the face that the dealers would come to should there be any problems, anything like that, if they need files, things like that, and I will then report back to the calibration guys, and hopefully all together we work well to get the right product out there.
Cool. So today I've come here because I want to find out if my Clubsport S has been tuned. I haven't owned it from you, so anything could have happened to it. And whether it has been or not, I'd be quite curious to see how much power and torque it's producing. So how are you going to do that?
Yeah, it's quite straightforward. There's a couple of ways you can do it. We could log it on the road, but to keep things nice and safe and legal, we're going to log it on the dyno today. So we'll do a full dyno run, which will obviously record the peak power and the engine torque we're seeing. And then I'll do a VCDS log on it as well using VADCOM. So that'll log things like the engine torque, the boost, the ignition, fueling, how much pullback we're going to get, and ultimately by the end of that run we'll know whether it's tuned or not. Okay, so 310 horsepower stock. Would you expect a stock car to be there or thereabouts? Yeah, they're roughly there or thereabouts, yeah. And the tune car, where would we expect the tune car? Depends on what sort of tune is on it potentially, but I would have said around the 360 mark. So I think anything above 350 we're going to know it's tuned.
All right, interesting. Okay. And by the way, guys, once that's done, we're going to then fit Racingline's TIP turbo inlet pipe to see what effect that has on the performance of my Clubsport S. So there's a lot of work to do. Over to Paul to get cracking. Now, before the dyno result is revealed, I just want to remind you guys of 2 ways you can support the channel. The first is free of charge. The second can actually save you money. So the obvious way to support the channel is, if you haven't already, to subscribe. If you have already, then big thanks. If you haven't and you like what you see, then I'm sure you know what to do by now. The way to support the channel and save yourself money is simply to sell me your car. I'm now buying for a very reputable dealer, and their reputation means they can sell cars for top money, and that means we can buy cars for top money. The only problem is, at the moment, they're being very selective over what they buy. So the cars we're looking for right now are Audi RS3, RS4, RS6, and only up to 3 years old. With regards to older cars, we're only looking for Mk7 Golf GTI Clubsport Edition 40 and Mk7 Golf GTI Clubsport S. In all cases, cars need to be unmodified with a full service history and average mileage or below. You'll be dealing with me from beginning to end, so if you've got something that matches that criteria, then do get in touch via email, andrew@volkswizard.co.uk. Right, back to the video, and let's find out how potent my Mk7 Golf GTI Clubsport S really is. Right then, you've done your 3 runs and you haven't told me what the result is, so I am waiting with bated breath. The car didn't blow up, so that's a good start.
The car definitely didn't blow up.
So yeah, what have you found?
She's standard.
Good.
Yeah, so it's standard. Now, there's a couple of things we can address on it. I've obviously done the data logs with VCDS, which I said to you about before. That gives me an engine torque figure, which is actually calculated without these having a mass airflow filter and things on. So the figures on there, it's holding a flat 380 Newton meters, which is what they are stock. Okay, it's just like that. And you can actually see this in this line here.
Oh yeah.
However, obviously we're seeing 414 and we're seeing more than 310. This is because the car thinks it's still standard. You've got the air filter on it.
The R600 intake, yeah.
We're on a Dyno as well, so the figures actually are slightly different. This is what it's actually doing. The car is thinking it's still standard.
Oh, okay.
So it's still reading 380 as a calculated figure, which tells us straight away it's stock. And the actual stock curve for the torque highlights that as well. Okay, so the car within its own electronics thinks it's standard, but in the real world, on the road, it's above both in torque and in horsepower, which is what matters. Whatever the car thinks, it's irrelevant to us, really, isn't it? Apart from the fact that you can tell that it's standard. So yeah, that's so we're a bit up. Yeah, we're a bit up. The first reading I saw was just over 330, which made me question it a little bit. But as I did another run and then another run, this is what we've ended up with. It's quite consistent on the actual lines, but yeah, this is the actual power that we are making on it.
And previously, Triple Gen 3's being that sort of relatively small percentage over is pretty normal, isn't it?
I mean, it's not a huge amount when you think about it, and like we say, it's not standard with the intake on it, so that could be making that bit of difference on it.
Yeah, well, on my Seat Land Cooper 280 that was on this dyno a year ago, it was 6 Newton meter the torque and 6 horsepower up with the R600. So if we add that onto there, it's still slightly over. So yeah, with the sort of lighter weight of the Clubsport S and a little bit more power than you think, which is actually, I think that's about 20 horsepower more than the Cupra. It kind of all ties in now that it does feel, it does, yeah. Okay, well, you seem to think that your TIP, your turbo inlet pipe, is going to increase those figures. You guys all seem really confident.
Yeah,
so
I certainly hope so.
I've never fitted one to a car before, so let's see what it does.
Cool, okay.
Okay, the Racingline turbo inlet pipe and actually their silicone hose have now been fitted to my Clubsport S. And what benefits do you think that's going to give us, Paul?
Way more breathing capability, so it's going to be a lot smoother going through. The actual stock system is very restrictive, especially with like the corrugated pipe and the actual inlet going in. The airflow just gets very disturbed in there, gets restricted. This is much smoother flowing all the way through, so you'll find it give you a bit more sort of mid-range power and things like that. Okay, are you going to do 3 power runs like you did before? Yeah, exactly the same. So we'll do 3 power runs. I'll do the data logs at the same time like I did before. I'll have a look at those as I'm doing it, and then we'll end up with the figures we end up with at the end. Great. What are you expecting to end up with? Well, we're on 324 there. I mean, it'd be nice to see somewhere a little bit over 330 perhaps. That'd be a nice roundish number, yeah. Yeah, but I think it's more so how it performs on the road as well. Okay, well, as long as it doesn't go backwards, I'll be over the moon. I certainly hope not.
Okay, Paul, you've got another dyno plot on the screen then. So this is with the Racingline turbo inlet pipe or elbow fitted. So yeah, just explain to us what's going on.
Okay, so what I've done is I've overlaid the previous dyno chart we were looking at to the latest one I did. I did 3 back-to-back runs, and this is pretty much the average one that we did there. You'll see the green lines on the torque. As much as we were 414, I think it was before, we're 415 now, but you can see the before and the after, so it holds it that much nicer. And also on the horsepower side of it, we were 324 before. Which was good, yeah. And it's now 332. So again, you can see the before and the after. Obviously the after being the higher one, it's just holding it that bit much longer. And I think you'll certainly feel that on the road. Okay, so there's not much difference at lower RPMs, but here, which is where the car takes off, feels like it takes off anyway, it's about 4,500 RPM. That's it. The TIP line gets higher. Yeah, and then stays higher. The torque, you see your peak torque lower down, but it just holds it that bit nicer. Yeah. What about intake sound? Do you think there's any more? I think you'll notice a bit more on the noise. Yeah. Okay, well, I think it's now time to get it out on the road and see how it feels and also see how it sounds. Well guys, as you might be able to tell, I'm not in Milton Keynes at the moment. I'm actually back at home because when I left Racingline, I had 4 R360 wheels perched here where the back seats should be on a normal Golf, and it wouldn't be a good idea to start testing the performance of this car with those things floating around loosely right by my head. So I've come home, I've unloaded them, and I just want to get a feel for the car with the turbo inlet pipe and silicone hose fitted to it. Now, we know from the dyno it's got 8 horsepower more. I don't think I'll be able to feel that on the road, so we won't bother. 1 Newton meter of torque can only be measured on a dyno as well, so I'm not expecting it to feel any quicker. Response would be potentially better, but looking at the dyno plot, it only really seemed to get any more powerful at about 4,500 RPM, so I wouldn't want to say it feels any more responsive. But what I can tell you is that it does sound better. Now with the R600 there was a subtle intake sound that wasn't there before. It's still pretty subtle, but it's not as subtle now with the turbo inlet pipe. I think it's perfectly judged. I wouldn't imagine my wife as a passenger would even notice it, but for me it just is great to have some noise coming from the front that's real, because the fake sound's turned off in this car, and also to have what is probably the best judged Golf exhaust noise from the factory on this Clubsport S. So let's just pull off from the standstill, hopefully you'll be able to hear it. The mic is on me this time. So you can definitely hear the boost whooshing just the other side of the bulkhead. The turbo inlet pipe is just literally down here, the other side of the bulkhead as well. So you can hear the boost dumping as well, but it's inside the car, at least it's pretty subtle. I'd imagine it's a little bit louder outside than it was with just the R600. It actually reminds me of the most straight-laced Golf GTI, the Mark IV GTI 1.8 turbo, which had a turbo again behind, just in front of the bulkhead here, and dump valves and stuff, and they were quite vocal. Even though the car looked completely plain on the outside, there's quite a bit of huffing and chuffing from those, and this sounds pretty similar to that. So the kind of thing the factory would have allowed on a Mark IV that they kind of tuned out on later cars. It sounds perfect, and it's a relatively inexpensive mod, far cheaper than the R600, but obviously it's a good idea to combine them. If you had to do just one though, I'd probably do the turbo inlet pipe, because we've got more power out of it, and I'd say a smidgen more sound. So yeah, that's it for the preparation of the car for now. In the longer term, I want to upgrade the brakes, not sure when that will be, when funds allow. And in the next video though, I'm going to put the R360 wheels on the car. They're in a colour I've not had before. You can probably work out what that is if you know what I've had before.
but they should look pretty good on this car. I'm also going to get CarPlay enabled, which might sound a bit weird as part of track preparation, but if you've ever driven in Europe, it's just great having Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps here. It's all right having it on your phone, you know, on a dash mount, but it's much better having it integrated into the car. So I'll do that in the next video. Keep a lookout for that. That's the second video in the Road to the Ring series. In between this video and that one though, the next video I'm going to publish should be on Racingline's 520 horsepower demo Mk7.5 Golf R, which I drove yesterday. It was a bit of a rush job, but I think the video probably captures how bloody crazy that car is. As ever guys, thanks for watching this Volkswizard video. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and I'll see you for the next one very soon.